for TEFL at work, and I'll be doing this webinar today with Claire. Hi, Claire.
Hi, Thomas.
Hi. First of all, before I start talking more, please in the chat, can you please put your first name and where you're, which city or which country you're at? Because it'd be nice to see everybody and see where you all come from. And also, please put questions in the chat as well. And we'll answer questions as we go along, and we'll answer some questions at the end as well. So we'll answer the best we can. Okay, so hi Graham, thanks for tuning in. There's a bit of an international flavour today because I'm speaking from sunny Madrid where I'm based, and Claire's from sunny Stirling in Scotland. Is it sunny in Stirling today, Claire?
No, it's cloudy today, but it's warm.
Okay, nice. And today Claire and I are going to talk about some of our online courses. But first of all, I'll let Claire introduce herself and tell you a little bit about herself. There you go, Claire.
Okay, hi everybody. My name is Claire. I live in Scotland and I work from home a lot of the time. I've been teaching English to our international students for about 16 years. I've taught a little bit in Spain, in Greece and Australia, and of course here in the UK. And I've been a teacher trainer for about 12 years. Thoroughly love the job. It's a great industry to be involved in. So really happy to be here today. And Thomas?
I've been teaching for about 30 odd years. So between the two of us, we've got over 50 years experience. So I think everybody's in good hands today. Teacher trainer for 25 years. Like yourself, I just love the job. I can't imagine doing anything else. It's fantastic. By the way, we've got Graham from London. We've got Nikki from Rugby, Arthur from Germany. Hello, everybody. Susan from England, from Dusseldorf, Julie from the Netherlands. Thanks, everybody. We're going to talk about and from Manchester. First of all, I'm going to talk about there's three courses I'd like to talk about, the three online courses. And the first one is the 120-hour course. That's the kind of a normal standard course that people do. And people say to me things like, will that get me a job? Well, yeah. I mean, the 120-hour online course is more than enough to get you a job in most places in the world teaching English. What does it contain? What are the contents? The contents are, there are 5 modules, and the first one is grammar, and then it's methodology, and after that it's the video, which I'll explain in a minute, and it's 2 specialised courses. It's better to do it in that order, because if you do the grammar course first, then the other modules go into grammar, so if you kind of get the grammar under your belt first, it'll make the rest easier. Is grammar difficult? Well, yeah. But I think, Claire, do you agree with me that even when you do a TEFL course, when you finish it, you still don't know the grammar? I learned it when I was actually teaching it.
Yeah, you do learn a lot of the grammar, and a lot of your teaching reinforces that theory when you're actually teaching. You're discovering it and a lot of the terminology along with your students.
Yeah, no, same with me. So don't worry if you don't know the grammar when you finish your TEFL course. You'll get to know when you're planning your classes and you're actually teaching it. Then the methodology course. The methodology course will teach you how to do a good lesson plan and how to deliver it to your students. And the video course is where you get the chance to actually see videos. You see good classes and not so good classes, so you can compare them and you can analyse them. And then you've got the 2 specialist courses, which are really interesting. One is the teaching large classes, and the other one is teaching English on the phone. A student said to me the other day, well, teaching large classes, I don't really want to do that. I remember when I did my TEFL course a million years ago, and I did a teaching large classes module, thinking I didn't need it. And I had only been teaching for about a month, and I was thrown into this business English class, and it was supposed to be 15 students, and there were 50. I thought the guy said 15, he said 50. And I said, I've only got my class prepared for 15. Luckily, because I'd done the teaching large classes, I'd done the module, I kind of knew what I had to do, so it worked out well. The same with the teaching English on the phone. Sometimes you're teaching English online and maybe the video doesn't work, so you don't have face, so you're speaking to them maybe on the phone. So it's really a useful module as well.
Thomas, just interrupting you for a minute there. We've got Graham. Hi, Graham. He's got
Hello, Graham.
a question about today's webinar, whether it would be beneficial to him because he's already done the 150 hours already. Graham, I would say that, yes, we are going to talk a bit about the 120, but we're going to go on to teaching online, which might be something you haven't tried yet. And also, another question as well about the practicum has come up, and that's something else we're going to talk about as well. So today we're focusing on 120, the Teaching English Online course, and the practicum as well. So we've got a few sort of new things to talk about as well. So do stay with us, Graham. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. We're going to talk about teaching online. So we're going to talk about what to do after the 120 or the 150-hour course. Lots of people say to me, Claire, I mean, you know, I've heard people say, learning online, you feel very isolated, or, you know, I miss learning with other people. You have a personal tutor throughout the whole course who you can contact, except the grammar because that's self-study. But in saying that, you've got a support line where you can email and you can ask any questions. You've got the forums. You can get a study buddy to study with. So it's actually you're not very isolated. You've got plenty of support. The advantages of online learning, of course, is the flexibility. So you can do them when you've got time. Lots of people have families or they're working full time and they want to do a course, and it's very difficult to go to face-to-face like every day for like a month or something. So online courses, you can log in and log out whenever you want.
Thomas, what's the assessment for the 120 hours?
The assessment, the course is full of quizzes. I mean, so for example, you read some materials, and then there's like quizzes at the end of it to test you on what you've read. You need to pass all the quizzes, but you get unlimited attempts to do the quizzes. So why do we do that? We do that because if there's a difficult subject that you're finding it difficult to pass the quiz, we don't mind that you repeat it again and again and investigate every time before you do it, because you're learning and you're remembering the more you do it. So we're fine about that. We think that's part of it, an important part of the learning process. There are also strategically placed tutor marked assignments. So they get sent to your tutor who will mark them for you within 48 hours. By the way, the quizzes are marked instantly, automatically by the system. The tutor marked assignments take 48 hours, more than often, much quicker than that. And you've got 3 goals to do them. Lots of people say, 3 goals, what happens after 3 goals? Don't worry, we'll give you all the support you need to pass. If you're having a difficulty with one, ask your tutor. Sometimes the tutor will ask you to redo. It doesn't mean you failed. They'll just say, look, we're asking you to redo this one because, and we'll give you the guidance that you need. I mean, I don't think it's normal, Claire. Not everybody passes an assignment first time. Is that right? I mean, you're one of our tutors. So don't worry about that. And making mistakes is part of the learning process, and we don't expect you to pass everything first time.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of 120-hour course. We do highly recommend you do the 120-hour course. You really must do it before you do advanced courses.
Why is that, Thomas?
Because if you do an advanced course and you're asked to do like a PPP lesson plan, you kind of don't really know what it is. We do give a quick template of a PPP lesson plan on the advanced course, but that's not really enough to know how to do it. So you need the base, which is the 120-hour course. So I highly advise to do that. And I think that's it, really. I mean, let's move on now to the advanced courses. We've got 3 advanced courses. We've got the first one, which is the young learners. We've got the business English, and we've also got the teaching English online advanced course. And in fact, Claire is one of the tutors for that. So Claire, do you want to tell everybody a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the Teaching English Online course has 5 units. The first 3 units are actually teaching online. What are the basics of that? How is it different to traditional teaching face-to-face? What do you need, such as the hardware, the software? What programs do you use, such as Skype or Zoom? And the same format as the 120 hours, you've got quizzes, to reinforce some of that theory, and then you have an assignment at the end of the first 3 units, and that assignment is designing a Skype lesson. And then units 4 and 5 are related, but they're slightly different. That's more about details of building your own website so that you can freelance and promote yourself. And the last unit is how to market yourself. Of course, teaching online, you can join a brand, a company, and they usually use their own platform, and you can teach through that. Or if you freelance, you'll have to recruit those students yourself. You need to market yourself. So they're quite valuable units, the unit 4 and 5. And again, you have a short assignment to demonstrate how much you've processed that knowledge. So there's, again, similar to the 120 hours, there's no time frame in particular, but there's lots of information there, which is key at the moment with the current status with COVID-19. You know, a lot of us are turning to online provisions, so the teaching English online is a great way to learn more about that if you wanted to set yourself up as that type of teacher.
Claire, I've got a question here from someone, from Susan, and Susan's asking, how long is the teaching online advanced course? I mean, it's 40 hours. But how long do you think it would take people to do it? I mean, 40 hours is how long it would take a professional TEFL tutor. How long do you think it would take, Claire? Does it matter?
I think you could probably do it a bit sooner than that, a bit quicker than that. It depends. There's a lot of information within the modules, within the units. And if you can process that information fairly quickly, they're quite bite-sized, to be honest.
Yeah.
And if you can process that information and do the assignment is 600 words. So it's not too long. And again, you get 2 or 3 attempts, like the 120 hours. So we're here as tutors to give you some constructive feedback to make those improvements if it's needed. But I don't think it would necessarily take the 40 hours. It depends how quickly you can process the information and demonstrate.
Although, I mean, what we've done, I mean, some people it does obviously take longer than 40 hours, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, you've got 2 months to do the course, so you can take your time, and if it takes you 80 hours, that's fine, as long as you do it in the 40 hours. And in fact, what we've done, Claire, I mean, you know about this, I mean, we've because of the situation with the virus and things, and people working at home, we've realized that people are getting more into teaching and learning online. So our online courses, how to be a teacher online, are very, very popular. So we've actually just added a lot more content to our advanced course for this, and we've added lots of fantastic new videos, and they're actually demonstrations of videos of actually doing a lesson online. And also, I think for people who maybe are not so tech savvy, we've also got how to set up your students on Zoom and Bramble and other platforms like this. So straight from the beginning, how to find it, how to find the link and how to log on and register. So there are demo videos for all of that too.
There's a question there, Thomas, sorry to interrupt, but from Dean, can you do the online teaching advanced course after the 120 hours standard course? Is there an overlap?
We advise you to do it. I mean, in fact, I think you really have to do it after the 120-hour course. Any advanced course, do after the 120-hour course. If you do it the other way, you're kind of going back to front, and you would just struggle and not get the most out of your advanced course. So to get the most out of it, definitely do the 120-hour course.
There's quite a bit of terminology that you would need for the online course that you would learn in the 120 hours. So I think
well, in the 120-hour course, you learn the grammar. You also learn how to do a PPP lesson plan, a skills lesson plan, a before, during and after lesson plan. And you need to be able to do these and know your way around these plans really before you do the advanced course. I have a question for you, Claire. Someone's asking, do you need to be like a techie to be able to be teaching English online?
That's a really good question. Thankfully, the software out there is pretty easy to use. No doubt a lot of us are using it to communicate with family and friends already, even before the virus. So a lot of it's pretty easy, but what's great is the modules that we have set up with the advanced course for teaching online go into great detail about how to start, you know, not only the teaching side of things, the practical activities and things you can do online, but yeah, the techie side to things as well. And that because it's so easy to sort of set yourself up, you can practice as well. You know, when you're calling your sister or your brother, you can try and perhaps even have a go at just doing one of the activities or something with them.
Yeah, so a lot of practice first.
Lots of detail on the content that we've set up with the course. And you can do that, read that at your own pace, so you can make sure that you're processing it and taking it in before you do a quiz, for example.
Yeah, because someone says help, you know, I'm a bit of a tech phobe. Same answer, really. Me too. I was too a few years back, but you kind of get, I mean, especially now, teachers are being forced into teaching online. Maybe teachers have shied away from all the technology before, thinking, well, I'll just do face-to-face. And really, all teachers are being forced into this now. And most of the people I've spoken to, they're actually saying, oh, it's really quite easy. It's not that hard. So, and like Claire says, there's lots of demos, videos, and lots of step-by-step demonstrations on the Teaching English online advanced course. I have another question here for you, Claire. Someone's asked, I have two more questions for you. Do you need to be, she says, do I need to be creative to do this course?
Oh, that's a good question. So you can be as creative as you want to be. There's lots of materials out there on the internet that you can use straight away. So you don't have to be too creative to start with. There's ideas within our courses and ideas on our blog forum as well for teaching. But if you wanted to start being creative with it, you can be. And I think that's one of the beauties about this work that we do, is you can, once you've kind of got your head around the formats of a lot of lessons, then you can add in your own ideas as well. And so you can take it as far as you want to, you know. You could be designing a whole course or something if you really wanted to. So it's as much as you want it to be. But there is, if you're not creative, there is a lot out there ready-made for us to use as teachers.
Well, yeah, it's just the internet now is amazing. It's not like years ago you had to kind of ask teachers in the teacher's room and make your own stuff. Nowadays you just click a button and it's everywhere.
I remember a long time ago actually physically cutting things up, gluing it on paper, photocopying it. You know, now we can do everything on the computer, like Canva or something like that. So we can be much more creative, and it looks much better, more professional than what we used to do years ago.
Well, years ago it was all very hand done. But you can be that same creative, but just doing it online. And in fact, we're going to talk about the Practicum course in a minute, and we're going to talk about how you can actually do activities that you do face-to-face classes. You can actually do them online because you've got the tools there in an online platform to kind of do that. You just have to make a few adjustments. So we'll talk about that in a minute.
Before we go on to that, Thomas, a couple of people, I've been watching the chat as we chat, and there's a couple of questions. So Carol asked about grammar. And I remember asking exactly the same question, Carol, when I was training. What happens if a student asks quite a difficult grammar question? What would you say to that, Thomas?
It depends on so many things. I mean, first of all, imagine you're teaching the past simple, so the relatively elementary kind of a level-ish. And then they ask a present perfect, which is taught at a higher level. Well, I would say to my students, you know, maybe, look, we're not doing that today, guys. You'll learn that later on. Don't worry about it. Let's focus on what we're doing now. If someone asks, if I'm a new teacher and I'm doing grammar and I've done, I mean, when I first started, to be honest, I remember the first lesson plans I did used to take me like 5 hours to do them. It was just, I mean, now you can do them in 15 minutes, but it took me like hours, and I would be the whole weekend. Because if you're teaching grammar, then you start to think, what kind of questions are the students going to ask me? So you have to prepare with your grammar book all the different questions that they're going to ask you and get prepared for it. It is true that sometimes they ask a question that you're not prepared for and is on the grammar that you're teaching. Now, what would I do? There's several things that I've done. I could one say, okay, that's a really good question. In pairs, discuss this. I mean, I tend to throw questions back to the students because it's an opportunity for them to speak in English. And it's an opportunity for them to solve problems and peer correction and peer help and things. So I would throw that question back at the students, get them in pairs to discuss it, and then I would elicit the answers. And if I heard an answer that I thought, okay, that sounds right, I'd say, okay, yeah, that's right. I mean, maybe then I remember. If they still don't answer it properly, I'll say to them, well, look, that's part of your homework. Tonight when you go home, I want you to look that up and I want you to find the answer. And why would I do that? Because it's good that you teach students to be independent learners and find things for themselves. I mean, the teacher can't hold their hand and spoon feed them all the time. Or another way you can do is you can say, look guys, I actually don't know the answer to that. To be honest, I don't know. And then just, when you go home, find the answer. But make sure you follow that up and you tell them the next day because they'll be waiting for you. Don't forget about it. So there's kind of different ways to do it.
What you do is to tell them the wrong answer or sort of try and dig your way out of it. It looks bad. But to be honest, sometimes there is some grammar. Even, not all of us know everything about grammar, and sometimes we don't know the answer. And I think they appreciate your honesty if you say, actually, yeah, that's a really good question. Let's find it out together.
And I also think it's important that you build trust in your class. And if you kind of not lie to them, but if you just give them the wrong answer and say that's the right answer, they'll know and they're going to go and check and they just won't trust you. And I think it's also important that we create a safe environment in class and we reflect that it's actually fine to make mistakes in class because making mistakes and getting things wrong is an important part of the learning process. And if you can show that the teacher can make a mistake or not know something too, I think that's really nice to reflect to your students that no one's perfect. Exactly. And they'll feel a lot more comfortable and you're building confidence and trust with the students.
Definitely.
So I think that's definitely important. I have another question here for you. The assignment, you said before the assignment was 600 hours. How long do you, 600 words, sorry, 600 hours. 600 words. How long do you think it would take for a student to do that? And is there a time limit that they have to do the assignment?
For the teaching online course, there isn't a time limit for them to actually do the assignment. They can do that in their own time. To write 600 words, well, it's a bit like how long's a piece of string, but I wouldn't envisage that it would take more than a day or two, to be honest, because you've gone through the units and they are bite-sized information blocks, if you like, and that's quite easy to take in and process, and you'll probably make notes and things like that as well. And the first assignment for teaching online is a plan. And plans can look a little bit like a list almost, so it's not too heavy with regards to writing it. The second assignment is a couple of long paragraphs if you want to be about 600 words, so that's a little bit more academic, if you like, but I wouldn't envisage it taking longer than a weekend or something like that.
Okay, and that's doing different drafts and checking it and making sure. Yeah, I mean, everybody's different, like you say. I mean, some people are really quick at writing essays, some people take longer. I don't think it matters. There's no time limit.
I draft again and again and again.
I do that. No, I do that too, and then double check it. And so what I do when I do things, when I've been studying, is when I've got the finished draft and I think it's perfect, I go away and I look at it the next day. And the next day you see it in a different light. You say, oh, why did I do that? You change it. So I think that's nice to do and take your time. And contact your tutor if you have any difficulty.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're here to. We're easily contactable and we're here to help. I've had a few students ask questions before they submit just to clarify things in their mind for their final draft. And there's nothing wrong with that, No. And that's what we're here to do, is to help people get through the course. Can I just quickly return back to grammar, because Emily, I didn't want to forget this question. Emily asked, how can she be better at teaching grammar? Is there a course for this or any good websites? Personally, I would say it does come a little bit with experience, because luckily for us, grammar is finite. It's not endless. And so once you've taught present simple, for example, you'll teach that again and again and again, or second conditionals, and you teach it again and again and again. And as you gain that experience and you tweak your lesson plans and the way that you teach it, you just become better and better at it. You've got your go-to resources that you use. To be honest, we all become a little bit comfortable and complacent with our go-to resources, and it's a good idea to sort of switch that up a little bit sometimes. But it is the same grammar. Your audience will be different. You might be with juniors, young learners, or businessmen or something. So your audience will be slightly different, but you'll need to tweak it. But you get to sort of learn the grammar as you go through. What would you say that's true, Thomas, for you? Right? That's how I found it.
I think so. I mean, I remember doing my TEFL course and doing the grammar and doing lots of lesson plans. I mean, I learned grammar by doing lesson plans. And I remember teaching, and I didn't know the grammar when I was teaching a grammar point. And I remember, being really worried about that. But it worked out okay in the end, because I was honest with my students and everything was fine. And I don't think students, expect you to just like spit out answers. That's not what you're there for. No. I think we're not there to give answers. I think, in my opinion, we're there to help and guide students to learn the language, to discover the language, not just to give answers. They need to do the work too. I've got another question here from Arthur. And Arthur's asked, I've just recently finished my 120-hour TEFL course. Now I'm wondering what to do next. Well, one of the advanced courses, Arthur, the Teaching English Online course, the Young Learners course, or the Business English course. And then I have another question here from Paul Hughes, and he says he did the 130-hour with a classroom course as well, and he said he recommends this and he really enjoyed it, so that's great. Thanks, Paul. And he says his teaching is going very well. Thank you.
We've got quite a lot of positive comments coming up that people have actually finished and said how.
And then we'll go, and then Dean says, can you do the online teaching advanced course after the 120 hour? Yeah, you need to do it after. And someone else asks, are there any online teaching in the 120 hour course? No, there's not. There is the teaching large classes, and there is teaching English on the telephone, but the teaching English online is definitely advanced. I'll see if there's any more questions here that
I came across a couple of questions earlier. So I'm keeping an eye out on the chat. Thank you guys for all your questions and your interest.
Thanks.
It's lovely to hear from you all. Graham asked about if we recommend any companies to work for specifically. And Graham, I was going to say that there's quite a few examples on the blog, I think, Thomas, is that right? On the TEFL blog? There's lots of articles on there anyway about a variety of different things, but there are some online companies that we recommend there on the blog, and there's also examples of what it's like to work in different countries as well. So the blog, check it out, because there's lots of interesting articles on there that you should find really, really useful. And also similarly, Sean asked about business English. I think that the comment's gone, but I think he was maybe qualified in music. He's got a degree in music, I think I saw him say. But if he's seen that business English is a popular type of lesson that students want, and he asks, should he do a course in it? I would suggest probably yes, if your background's not so businessy. Mine is. I used to work in a corporate bank, so I've got quite extensive experience of that. But if you haven't, then I probably would take a course, which of course we've got the advanced course available. But there's lots of materials out there and a few websites as well that deal with that particular topic. And again, on the blog, I think we've got some information as well. Okay. Anything to add to those, Thomas?
Sorry?
Anything to add to those?
No, I think more or less you've said all these things. You know, I totally agree with you. There are another few questions here. I mean, one we've got from Jodie Rain, and she's saying that thanks for your question, by the way. Thanks to everybody for your questions. She said, I want to teach online only to young learners. Is there a young learners section in the 120-hour course? Do I need to do another course? In the 120-hour course, there is a section on teaching young learners. There is, but it's just a section. It's a little look in the window to teaching young learners. If you're going to teach young learners online, I would definitely do the teaching English online course as well. And with your knowledge from the young learners on the 120-hour course, you can transfer that knowledge to the Teaching English Online course. And don't forget, we've also got the Teaching Young Learners Advanced course as well, which you might like to look at. And all that knowledge you can use together with the knowledge you learn in teaching on the English Online course, and how to, most things you can transfer, we'll talk about this in a minute, you can transfer from face-to-face classes to teaching online. Which brings us to the Practicum course. Now, the Practicum course is something we've just created recently, basically out of demand. I mean, our students are, you know, with the feedback we hear from our students, students are saying, you know, the Teaching English Online course, advanced course is great, but how do we actually do it? Now, for example, the 120-hour course, you can actually do a weekend course or the 3-day course, which Claire and both Claire and myself teach on that as well. And these are the practical face-to-face courses, and these bring the online course to life. Now, we're doing the same thing with the Teaching English Online Advanced course. We're bringing it to life, and we've just designed, and it went live just at the beginning of the week, and it's face-to-face online teaching English online course. What does it consist of? Maximum of 6 students. You'll have your own tutor, and it's in 3 sessions. So it's, for example, 2 hours each day, Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday from, say, 10 to 12, whatever timetable you put yourself down for. And what does it consist of? It consists of the tutor going through all the different activities with you for a PPP lesson plan, a skills plan, and before, during and after plan. So actually getting practice with the tutor, actually how to physically do the courses on like a platform like Zoom, and how to use the tools in Zoom to make these activities interactive with your students and use the whiteboard and everything. And so you get to do that with your tutor, and you also get to do 2 lesson plans that you have to design and actually deliver them to your fellow classmates. So you're getting lots of experience with the tutor how to do these things, and actually do it yourself with feedback from your tutor and your classmates. Do you have anything to add to that, Claire? Because both Claire and myself are tutors on that. Do you have anything to add, Claire?
Just briefly, that I'm really excited to get involved in that, because I think you were saying the other day, Thomas, that we're one of the first providers to do this.
Yeah,
because the Teaching Online English course that I'm a tutor on is a lot of theory and a lot of information and know-how, which is great. But the Practicum will really bring it to life. And that's something, you know, even before I started teaching online, I hadn't had a practice. I just went live, you know. So it's really good to have a go, have a practice in the right environment, but a safe environment. You know, you'll just be with myself or the tutor and other students that are learning how to do this. So we can not only have a play with the activities, what you would ask your students to do in a lesson, but also with the tech as well. And that we need to balance both of those as professionally and as best as we can. So, you know, to have a practice of that would just be invaluable. And I believe we've got 3 days of 2 hours each. So the first day is a bit of theory, but the second and third day is when our students will get a chance to be the teacher and have a practice themselves. So it could be anything from 10 to maybe even 20 minutes, depending on if we've got a full class of 6, or if we've got less, and you guys can spend a bit more time practicing. So absolutely invaluable. This is something that I didn't have the chance to do when I started teaching online. And it's as valuable as the weekend courses that we do, where you teach face to face. It brings everything to life, and a lot of everything sort of slots in and comes together when you do that.
I mean, someone's asked a question, Claire. Someone's asked, do I have to do work outside the sessions? Yeah, I mean, there's 6 hours with the tutor, but when you, for example, at the end of session 1, the tutor will give you an example. By the way, at the end of each session, the tutor will actually give you like a little quick demo of a real lesson, and then you'll be asked to make your own lesson after the session. So you'll be able to do the lesson plan on your own time, and you'll deliver that the next day. So how long will that take? It depends on how long you need to put your lesson plan together. So there is that amount of work, and of course any other study that you want to do outside that.
Yeah. It's a bit like with my feedback on some of the lesson plans that I mark for the teaching English online. Your lesson plans can be really short, but we would say the more detail the better. So in the Practicum course, which we're starting next week, you could come up with a really brief plan, and it doesn't really go to plan. The more detail you can put into a lesson plan, and like Thomas said, and the same for me, when I started teaching, it took me 3 or 4 hours to make a plan, for 15 or 30 minutes plan or something. But that's because you're new to it, and you're not expecting all singing and dancing plans at that stage. So it means the more details you can put in, the more confident you'll be when you actually get to do it the next day. So they don't have to be pages and pages long, but it just means if you can put in more detail, you'll be more confident in your delivery. I think that's what I advise people on the teaching online course, because for me that's how it works, really.
I agree, and I mean, the thing is, at the end of the day, the more lesson plans you make and deliver, the easier it gets. And the beauty of this is you can actually recycle stuff as well.
Yeah.
You can actually recycle stuff. And I'm going to tell you something. I remember when I first started doing online courses. Before I did online courses, before I taught English online, I remember, I live in Madrid, I remember going to classes in the metro, taking an hour to get to a class, and taking an hour to get to the next class. I used to spend 4 or 5 hours a day on public transport getting to classes. And when I started teaching online, I thought, wow, this is amazing. I'm saving 4 or 5 hours a day. So you can actually do more classes, get more work, and make more money because you can do more classes. Mm-hmm. And you're not running around and spending money on the metro and, or buses. So teaching online has incredible advantages. Mm-hmm. And it's very enjoyable. You just need a reasonably good internet connection. Mm-hmm. And, once you do our courses, our Teaching English Online Advanced course, and definitely our Practicum to get that practice, you'll be ready, more than ready. Like Claire, I didn't do like a Practicum course because we're the first ones out there to do it. And if I had done it, that would have definitely built my confidence, and it would have shown me what I have to do. Because I was going into it blind, I remember. What do you do? You're kind of blind. So we're taking that away, and we're building this bridge for you guys to help you to build your confidence.
There's a question there from Nikki, that at what stage would you do the Practicum course? I presume after the 120 and any advanced class.
Yeah, that's a good question, Nikki. Yeah, I'd do it after. Yeah, just like Claire said. Somebody else asked another question earlier, and it says, can I teach online classes after doing this? Yeah, definitely. That's what we said before, definitely. You'll be, I think dying to give it a go. I think so.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Tracy's asked that, how can I start teaching online immediately? And it is a case, Tracy, of either joining a branded online English company already that have a platform, and they usually have ready-made materials. Or if you wanted to freelance, this is where you need to promote yourself. And most people do it through social media, word of mouth, networking, and get your name out there as an online teacher. So theoretically, you can start tomorrow.
I mean, teaching online. Oh, message from Kirsty. Hi, Kirsty. Thank you.
Hi,
She said it sounds like a great offer. Yeah, I agree. Teaching online. I mean, I think we mentioned it before. You can. I mean, I know people that have set up their own website. And in fact, in our Teaching English online advanced course, we do show you and give you advice how to set up your own website. And so you can actually set up your own website and market it and everything. And people pay through your website. I mean, we show you how to do that. We talk about that. So you can actually do that. Or like Claire says, you can work like there are many agencies out there. And there is a blog about that on TEFL.org. So it's really up to you. Or you can do private stuff as well, I mean, once you're out there teaching and you get to know people, I mean, I've taught business English, and I've had someone call me and said, "Oh, my friend Pablo, who you're his teacher, I'm a friend of his. Can you give me private classes?" And I've done them online because, I live just outside Madrid and Pablo lives in the city. I don't want to travel out to the city. And it's been wonderful. And I've built up a repertoire of students, and, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Any more questions there,
Claire? Ruth asked, she's been thinking about doing this course and perhaps changing her career for quite a while. She's been a nursery nurse before, so she would be new to this. She doesn't have teaching qualifications at the minute. But I think, Ruth, personally, I was the same. I came from a banking background and became a teacher. So the course is so detailed, and the support from your tutor and the team is good that you would be able to take on board all this new information. And yes, I think you would, or you could become a teacher of English once you've done the course. It's very, very doable, very achievable.
I mean, everybody I know who's done the course has found work. I know lots. I mean, I've been teaching. I've been working at TEFL.org, teacher trainer, since it started in 2008. So we've literally taught TEFL courses to tens of thousands of students. And I know so many people who are maybe in their 50s and they've lost their job, or they hate their office job and they want a career change. And they're like, "Can I do a TEFL course?" And I was like, "Well, yeah." I mean, they've done it. I mean, I mentioned this in a webinar I did a few weeks ago. I had a lady, and she was 93 or 94. She did a TEFL course, and she went to teach. She actually went to Nepal for 6 months teaching orphan children. So yeah, you can have a career change in your 50s or 40s or 30s, whenever. TEFL's for everybody. I don't think there's an age barrier. And everybody I know who's done it has been successful. And in fact, I did a weekend course with a student who's now a teacher. He was from Alicante in Spain. And hello, Alicante, if anybody's looking at it from Alicante. And he did the TEFL course, and he hadn't actually taught before. That's the story. He hadn't taught before. And when he went back to Alicante, he just opened his own school. Teaching experience. He just opened a school. And he's got, I think that was a few years ago, and he's got like 250 students now.
Wow.
He just jumped in there and he just did it. And I think he was in retail or something before that. He was like 40. But what happened is he was in the UK, he met a Spanish lady, they got married, and he was looking for work here. So I think anybody can do it. Any more questions there?
Actually, I'm just reading Emma's last comment as well. It's a really good point that you can start to learn to be a teacher, and go down that route and change your career. But also for any of us that might be a little bit older and have been working in a slightly different industry, there's a lot of transferable skills, communication, patience with people, or people skills, interpersonal skills, being creative, lots and lots of different transferable skills that you find yourself using as a teacher as well. So you may be new to the teaching industry, but you'll use a lot of skills that you already have, I think.
We've got Emma about is asking about grammar. Hi Emma, thanks for that. Oh, first of all, Emma Smith. Sorry, do you have to have any insurance or anything for teaching online through your own website? Do you know anything about that, Claire?
No, I would say probably not. I would maybe take that question as, of course, if you were teaching in a regular classroom in a school or a place, you would probably need like public liability insurance. A lot of traders have that kind of insurance. But online, I would think not. I don't want to say that's gospel, but I've not heard of that, because
I think
in a public place for a start.
I think it would maybe depend on what country or what company you want to work for as well. I mean, maybe if you were doing online courses in some huge international company, maybe they would want you to have it for some reason, or some countries. It's definitely something that maybe investigate. But I've taught online for years, and I've never even thought about it. I've never been asked for it.
One thing I would double check in a way is to think about sort of finances, how you would take payment, and what your cancellation policy is. So because if you're freelancing, you do need to protect yourself as well. So making like a 24-hour cancellation policy. I think after 24 hours, then the student's liable, for example. Just things like that, be crystal clear, so that your students know the rules about that, because life happens. Sometimes the teacher needs to cancel, or the student. Make sure that's clear.
That's really important, Claire, because I remember when I first started out, I was, I said, well, I didn't have a cancellation agreement, and of course, what was happening is, you would have a lesson at maybe 4 o'clock, and 2 minutes to 4, you get an email saying, my boss has called me into a business meeting, and so what was happening? This was happening all the time. I mean, I know people are busy and things, but I was losing money, and I was not giving classes to people who needed them because other people were cancelling at the last minute. So I agree with Claire. 24 working hours is important, and agree with that right from the start. And then Emma asked another question about grammar. I'm teaching freelance, Emma. I'm teaching freelance, but find it difficult to distinguish my students' grammar needs, even after a needs analysis. What would you say about that, Claire?
That's quite a tough question, but I think with plenty of examples, so whether they do a speaking for you and they record it, or a piece of writing, then you can nitpick their errors within that. Sometimes as well, there's a difference between something that's reoccurring, a grammar problem that's reoccurring, so a grammar gap that needs to be taught, for example, or is it just odd little errors or
like slips?
Slips, yeah. Thank you.
Technical
just slips, and sometimes they can make those slips and self-correct. Sometimes they don't self-correct. So there's a couple of things to watch out for. And you're right, it doesn't always come up in a learner needs analysis. Sometimes the student might focus on a skill or an aim and not be able to tell you what their grammar problems are because they don't have enough terminology to do that. So get some examples from them, whether it's spoken word or written form, email, for example, or a story or a diary entry or something in writing, and you can kind of spot them that way.
I mean,
a bit of practice though.
We've got Carol as well, who says, I'm a PA and I'm 61, never done teaching before, but I'm going to make a change.
Wow.
And in fact, which reminds me, is I actually had a student. She was English and she lived in the Canary Islands. She went to live there, and she was a PA in London, and she wanted to get away from London. She wanted to change her life. She bought a house in Canary Islands, and she was in her late 50s, and she did a TEFL course with us. And we're actually still friends now. We're kind of friends now. And she's been to Madrid a few times with her husband, and we've met up. And she's doing really well. And again, she started teaching English online, because in the Canary Islands, she was teaching people from all over the world. And I think she's got lots and lots of students now. She's got local face-to-face students and teaching online, and she's doing very well. And she's really happy she made that break. And another wonderful thing about teaching English online as well is you can live anywhere you want, as long as there's a good internet connection. I've had students from Russia, from Mexico, from Costa Rica, from Japan. I had students from Japan, China, everywhere. You can teach anywhere. The world's yours.
I would just share a little snippet with you as well, because I was thinking about this yesterday. Most of my teaching has been within the classroom, the traditional sense, and it's only in the last sort of 2 or 3 years that I've done more online teaching. But there's something unique about online teaching that I really, really like, and I've done mostly one-to-ones as well. The same as Thomas, Saudi, Russian, Swiss students, whilst I've been here in the UK. And within the first hour or first or second lesson, I like it because I have a direct communication with the student in their home environment. So I always ask them to get their camera and to pan it around the room, show me where they are. Now, this is totally different to face-to-face classroom teaching. And if there's pictures on their walls, they can tell me about their pictures or their paintings or their portraits and things like that. And that's unique to teaching online. And that's what I really like, is I'm just having a snapshot of what it's like for the student in their home. I really, really do like that.
No, yeah, I mean, I've done that with some students too. I mean, some students don't want you to see their house, but with some students do, and it's really nice. And it just makes a bonding between you and the student.
It is.
Emma says, I want to live in the Canary Islands too. And I'm going to make you jealous, Emma. My old student actually lives on the beach.
Oh, lovely.
And because she's teaching English, she can do that. Carol's asked, how would you decide your hour? It's a good question, Carol. How would you decide your hourly rate if you were freelancing? Can it vary from area to area? Yeah, it can vary from country to country and area to area. In Spain, for example, if your students in Madrid, they tend to pay more, or Barcelona, than if someone is from like, I don't know, Alicante or Seville.
Yeah.
It depends on the area. It's up to you. If you've got a student maybe from Japan or Germany, maybe they would pay more than a student from the Ukraine. Wages are different. So you have to think about, when you're teaching, what your rate is and your margin. It's competitive, but at the same time, I've seen students start out really making their lessons really low price. I wouldn't do that either. We don't want to get into like a price war, and your work should be valued. I mean, when I first started, I remember my prices were really cheap, and I was thinking, it's to get experience. And, I had so much work, and I wasn't making much money, and I didn't have enough time to plan my lessons. So I did that for about a year or two. And then I decided, right, I'm going to put my price at a normal, good rate. And I did that. I lost a few students. But the students I kept, I was still making more money with the proper fair rate than I did when I was so busy. I didn't have the time to prepare my classes. And I had more time to be more professional and prepare my classes. So rates are different. Be careful. You're not too cheap, not too expensive. It's up to you,
Yeah, that's a good point. And that sort of leads me on to think about, consider where your clients are with the time zones and your own time zone, because there is a tendency, and I'm guilty of this, if you're freelancing, working from home, I'll still work in the evenings. And this is, you have to make your schedule work for you, and not sort of get away from home life and things that are important.
Like forget you've got a family.
Exactly. Forget to walk the dog. And things like so that's important, and think about where your clients are and what time zone that is to your time zone. You know, so it might be that you're working more in the evening, but you have the mornings off, for example. So it's an opportunity, but it's also an opportunity to think about how you want to work, what hours you want to do.
And I always give myself a break as well. I give myself a coffee break, 15 minutes in the morning, afternoon, and I take an hour for lunch. You need that, get away from the screen. You need to have your breaks. Another couple quick, before we finish, because that's, we've been nearly an hour. Time flies. A couple of quick questions to answer. Kirsty, hi Kirsty again. You said, Kirsty says, on a practical note, do you work from a course book for teaching students online? I think it depends on what the students want. We do a needs analysis first, and what they need English for, and maybe they need you it needs to be tailor-made for them, so you have to make stuff up yourself. And in fact, we've got some really good lesson plans for teaching English online. We've got a book of 10 lesson plans for young learners, book of 10 lesson plans for business English, and also for general English. So you can actually see them on our website. So they'll help you as well they'll help you to bridge that gap again. How do I make lesson plans for online? You'll see these ready-made up lesson plans which will help you with that. And then Lawrence is saying, you're thinking about teaching English in Japan. Is a TEFL enough? It depends who you want to work for. There are some countries that need a visa, and to get a visa, you need a degree. It's not always the case, but in Japan, I think it's quite common. There are ways around this. You can check the forums. To teach English online to Japanese students, if you're in the UK, I think the TEFL is enough. I don't think they're going to ask you for like a degree or stuff. Depends who you're teaching. Any other questions there? Before we finish,
saying thank you, which is lovely. I mean, we thank you for all the questions. And it keeps the webinar going, because we like to do hot off the press answers as well. But lots of people are thanking us, Thomas. I mean, it's a pleasure, it really is, to give you real life experience answers, and especially, if there's questions that have really been bothering you or something, then we're really happy to help in that sense.
And so just before we say goodbye, just to let you know, we've actually got a special offer for most of our courses, 50% discount until midnight tonight, I think it is. They'll probably put that in the chat. So now's a good time to buy a course if you're interested. And thank you very, very much, everybody, for coming. It's been a real pleasure, hasn't it, Claire? It's been lovely to help people answer questions. And thanks for all your thanks, everybody, and see you next webinar.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks,
everybody. Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.